Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is MarkTech being back much sooner than expected, checking once again if my stream is going okay. It hasn't yet updated on my iPad, but nothing matters here. I was so excited to get some actual numerical data as leaks that I really wanted to react to this very, very quickly. First and foremost, thanks to 9to5Mac, it's their exclusive leak. And as we know, sites like 9to5Mac and Mac Rumors are usually more rumor aggregate sites than they are leakers or sources for leakers themselves. They usually report on something like what Mark Gurman is saying, what Min-Chi Kuo is saying. So getting leaks from them is rather rare. However, in the past, they have had some decent leaks, and I just like it when we have more people reporting on this kind of stuff. Yes, the stream seems to be working. I'm already on the 9to5Mac website. You saw the thumbnail. Now the thumbnail does include the water sign from the 9to5Mac leaks. I stand fully by. This is not by me. This is reacting to 9to5Mac, so thank you very much. So, the exclusive. This is iPhone 15 Pro. Reads sort of like a Johnny Ive intro. This is iPhone 15 Pro. Brilliant. Thinner bezels, thicker curved design, no lighting port, and more. Now, the interesting part about the no lightning port was I was sort of confused about why they are talking about the absence of one port instead of the presence of another. But I think that's sort of to entice people. The actual article is much more clear. So they have a CAD model, so basically like a 3D render of the iPhone 15 Pro. It's supposedly provided by a reliable case manufacturer and 3D artist Ian Zelbo. So I think it's kind of like the case manufacturer gets like... This is a little bit sketchy. Usually we used to get a lot of data from case manufacturers, but then we sort of understood that those people don't know anything. Remember the crazy iPhone 10 leaks back in the day? Oh God, I'm so old. Though it's not really what I would call the best possible source, but maybe if they know them. And Ian Zelbo does a great work with CAD render, so that obviously is beyond reproach. I'm happy about having him do the job here. However, there are some things here where I'm like, okay. So let's get into it. So the renders show some significant changes to the design and features. The features primarily being the port. Usually you don't see that much change. Of Apple's flagship smartphone, which is expected to launch later this year. The most noticeable change is the switch from Lightning to USB-C, which would mark a major departure from Apple's proprietary connector that has been used on iPhones and most Apple accessories since 2012, which is actually kind of funny because we are basically in the decade, right? Apple told us when they introduced Lightning that would be their connector for the next decade, and obviously it wouldn't matter if it was 8 or 9 years, but now it seems to be no, it's exactly 2012 to 2022 our devices get Lightning, and in 2023 they get USB-C. So that's kind of funny. They put some context on it. They say that this could be due to the pressure from the European Union, which has been pushing for a common charging standard for all smartphones and devices. Unfortunately, this might be limited to cables approved for Apple's MFI program for data transfer speed and charging speeds. Now, you can read up on those recent leaks. They aren't that clear, and some people have vastly overreacted to them, in my opinion. They sort of say that the USB-C in the iPhone would get an MFI program, basically made for iPhone, made for i, right? When all of Apple's devices were getting the i branding, and that it would limit some functionality to to accessories that were made for eye in mind. Stuff that maybe like just a third-party drive from the shelf might not work, though it doesn't actually say that. In my opinion, what I kind of envision Apple doing, it will be more about making sure that if you connect an MFI accessory to the iPhone, that it will work flawlessly right away. It will support definitely like the highest transfer speeds on the Pros. It will have like a chip embedded for maximum security. Well, if you put another accessory, for one, we don't know if it will work because some devices require a little more power than maybe the iPhone would be able to provide. Basically, if Apple makes like a shitty port in the non-pros, that's what I mean. I obviously know that the iPhone has like enough power to power any kind of drive and something like that. But with an MFI accessory, you definitely wouldn't have those issues, while with just a regular USB-C accessory, you might. And part of that could be that you get a message of this accessory might not be officially supported, or this accessory might provide some kind of security risk. Do you still want to try using it? I don't expect Apple to not give users the option to at least try. But that's just speculation, right? They do have everything in place in terms of like what they have on iPadOS. I don't think that like Stage Manager will come for external displays, but I think that external video output and support for like USB storage is absolutely on the table without needing MFI accessories. That's just reaction to another rumor, so you basically get two for one. Another change is the curvature of the edges. Now, this is basically the curvature of the edges. If you compare it to currently, those edges are completely flat. It's actually interesting because the curvature isn't as extreme as I assumed, and because it's like a cat leak, right? It's a little hard to fully discern here where, like, is this where the glass starts, right? Because it's supposedly for both the metal chassis and the glass, though it looks more like it's just the metal. But maybe it's because the CAD render here doesn't actually discern between materials, even though it looks like it does. Let's see what the rest of the article holds. So, though according to them, the change is for the curvature of the edges, both on the glass and on the metal frame. The glass curves slightly around the edges, creating a more seamless transition to the frame. Yeah, this is kind of what I would think is happening here, because like the glass, I assumed that the glass would basically be more a sandwich, right? Like the bread, and then the aluminum or stainless steel or titanium, etc., would be like the sausage in between, right? But apparently it is still like the more seamless sort of unibody design that Apple wants to achieve, instead of going back to the iPhone 4 days where the glass was noticeable standing out on the front and back versus the actual metal chassis. The frame itself is also more curved than before, resembling the design of the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros. Yeah, that's been kind of like the rumor for everything, right? That all of Apple's devices would adopt a more or less like a flat front and then a curved back, though here it looks more like both front and back will be curved. And the new M2 MacBook Air. This could make the phone more comfortable to hold and less prone to accidental touches. Yeah, the less prone to accidental touches, I don't agree. I never had problems with that. More comfortable to hold, though, definitely. I really have been saying from day one, I love the design of the iPhone 12, 13, 14, etc. But I really would go back to a curved design immediately because the comfort is the most important thing. The camera bump on the back is also thicker than before, indicating that Apple may have upgraded the camera system with new sensors or lenses. The camera layout remains similar to the 14 Pro, with 3 lenses and a LiDAR scanner arranged in a square module. The camera lenses are thicker in this generation, likely hinting at larger image sensors. Now, that being said, first of all, let's go here, right, where we can see just how much the camera protrudes. And this has actually been kind of a pet peeve of mine. I really don't understand why Apple doesn't extend like the metal around the cameras higher than the actual cameras, because or at least to the same level, because that is supposed to protect the lenses. I know Apple trusts like the lenses for their back cameras a lot, but I still would rather have the metal protect them. And now this is like ridiculous, like the metal expenditure is just as big as the camera lens on top of it, even more. Like right now it would be like half of this, I think. Though I would have preferred to see like a more integrated design, right? Even if it would mean that the bump goes all the way up to fully protected. I know a lot of people don't like that, but it kind of starts looking a little un-Apple-esque, in my opinion. And also for any kind of rumors that we previously got that this would have like a Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra or the entire Galaxy S23 family design, where there's no bump and just the camera protrusions are just by themselves, like basically free floating in the chassis. That's supposedly not happening, so that's interesting. They are all thicker, right? But that being said, you should consider, right here you can see that all lenses are the same thickness, that Apple aligns the lenses with the biggest and thickest one in terms of cameras. Though it can mean that like we get only changes to the like 48 megapixel sensor being like a second generation one, while the others stay basically the same, and but they have to be adjusted to like still look symmetrical and stuff like that, to basically fit into Apple's like design philosophies. On the side of the phone, we can see some changes to the volume rockers and the mute switch. The volume rockers look like capacitive buttons instead of physical ones, which has been rumored. Given the renders, we cannot say this for certain, but it seems very likely. The mute switch also looks redesigned with a smaller and rounded shape, similar to that of capacitive buttons. So this would be the power button. Obviously I cannot tell from the recession here if that means if it's a capacitive button or a physical one. Did we have something here? And yeah, on the other side here, it would be like for the volume rocker, maybe it now goes up and down instead of front and back. We do have like the ingress points basically for the volume buttons. And we surprisingly have a SIM card slot, which kind of I've been speculating that Apple would ditch the SIM card for the entire world, as they did on the iPhone, they did on the iPhone 14. Though it's a little surprising, because that internal space can be used better, in my opinion, than a SIM card in 2023. So let's go forward. Yes, the mute switch is also redesigned. The renders do not show any details about the resolution of the iPhone 15 Pro, but we expect it to be similar to the iPhone 14 Pro. I assume they mean if there's any changes to like the screen. The body of the design is a few millimeters smaller with thinner bezels, so it will likely have the same 6.1-inch display in a slightly smaller body. That is important. This is the iPhone 15 Pro. It's not a Pro Max or the Ultra, and this year we are supposed to be getting a periscope lens camera on the Ultra or the Pro Max, depends on what it's being called. So the camera arrangement might look very very different on that device than it does on the smaller Pro. They're also like, they could obviously still make the camera look sort of the same, but just then extend the periscope zoom here. But I just assume that the regular Pro will have 6.1 inches, will have 6.1 inch screen just as before. It will have 3 lenses just as before. I don't think that those fundamentals are about to change. And they also say the dynamic island is still present and looks to be about the same size as the iPhone 14 Pro. It's actually kind of interesting what kind of like case manufacturer, like it's not even like a front like a cover glass like manufacturer. Like why would they know about True Tone, like about Dynamic Island? Dynamic Island last year has been leaked by Shrimp Apple Pro and couldn't be confirmed for a while by other sources. I assume that this is just their go-to understanding here, because like when you look at it, right, like that on the front is not a cat render part, like that is obviously like their own take on it. I would have liked to see what they actually know about the front screen. Yeah, what else? They're based on an early CAD model and may not reflect all aspects of Apple's final design. However, they do give us an idea of what we can expect from one of this year's most anticipated smartphones and all of the important changes, like a more comfortable frame and USB-C. Yeah, so that's basically it. I wanted to make a quick video about it because it matters. But it should be said that this is not the Ultra. That explains only having 3 cameras. It fits into other rumors that we would get a slightly rounded body, and it fits into rumors that we would get slightly thinner bezels. Though at this point the bezels are so thin that any kind of reduction in size makes them look like ridiculously small. I'm not complaining here. And they also sort of confirmed the capacitive buttons, but it seems more likely that they are speculating here. And from just what I would say is somewhat interesting / surprising is to still see a SIM card here, which would indicate that we are talking about the worldwide model. I don't assume that Apple will go back to SIM cards in the US model. And it kind of goes against my own speculation that we would be losing the SIM card now throughout the world. But who knows? Maybe that would be just reserved for the Ultra this year, right? Because the Ultra is basically like for people who can spend so much money on it. Those people can also afford to get like a second phone. Maybe that's Apple's thinking. They also don't comment on what material it's made out of, which makes sense. A case manufacturer does not need to know that, and therefore they don't know that. And in my thumbnail I'm asking whether it's a revolution or an evolution, and those are leaks for the 15 Pro, not the 15 Pro Max, not the 15 Ultra. Again, just depends on what branding we get. I would call it evolutionary in all the right ways. We are so far into the life cycle of modern smartphones that unless you are talking foldables, there's really nothing that you can fundamentally change without making people feel at least a little uncomfortable. Having an actually more comfortable frame to hold and focusing on the fundamentals, like I assume this means that we will get at least some camera improvements for at least one camera, right? Because Apple wouldn't increase the size of this if at least one camera wasn't about to get better. I was also very positive when I was talking about iPhone 15 Ultra rumors about what capacitive buttons might mean for the phone. Because I like the capacitive trackpad on MacBooks, and I like the Touch ID button on the iPhone 7. though there's a lot of good things here, but it's definitely not a big revolutionary change. Like, there is no under display camera or face ID, there's no returning of touch ID, which I wouldn't consider revolutionary because I don't need touch ID anymore, but some people still want it. They are going with USB-C and not with like a fully wireless solution. USB-C is probably like the most objectively revolutionary thing, but like, we've had like MacBooks with USB-C for years and years and years now. This is this supposed to be like, yeah, this is the USB-C port with the speakers. So the speakers do look very similar to what we have right now. Yeah, so that's basically it. You also got me to react to some of the recent rumors about Apple's MFI program, and what that would mean for like a USB-C iPhone. And just for all the people who are really, really deep into Apple stuff, there's also something new coming out, which is that we did just get iOS 16.4 beta 1. We've been waiting for quite a while. Some of the major changes are now access to push notifications in Safari. We got a ton of new emojis. We're getting some changes to the Apple Music app, to Apple Podcasts. That explains a little why we've been waiting for quite a while, because that's a pretty big update, and I assume we will continue getting more stuff as we go through the betas, and I will be installing it. Some noticeable things is we aren't getting like Apple Classical app, their companion music app yet, which I'm looking forward to because I'm a big fan of classical music, and I don't like calling it classical music because there's such a big variety. Therefore, I recommend you check out all that stuff. It's very interesting. I haven't yet gotten to check it out. It's basically just me pointing it out to you because I was really excited about the iPhone rumors, and this is just happened to happen alongside it. So yeah, that's basically it. I'm really, really grateful for all the support I got. Hope this was a last minute stream, or like really, like I announced it like half an hour before it. It isn't at the usual times, so I fully understand why nobody joined live. But I hope that in the future we can change that a little bit as there become more and more of us. Yeah, so this was Mark Tech reacting to more iPhone rumor stuff. I will obviously keep reacting to whatever new stuff we get from whatever decent source. And I thought because it was 95 Mac, even with some caveats about the case manufacturer, that this would be worth covering. Yes, this is Mark Tech saying thank you again. Please let me know what you would like to see me comment on next, or what I should change in general about my content. Thank you guys so much, and this is Mark Tech tuning out.